You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, People Centric leaders. This is Don. I figure we should introduce ourselves early. This is Don. I haven't been on an episode for a while. So this is Don. And we were talking to, I had a conversation last week that was really interesting. And Diana and Stephanie, I think you guys will be interested in this conversation. And it was a person who's been on a team for quite some time. And she made the comment that on her team, they had a couple of things that had happened that their team really rallied around. And then when the thing went away, the team really seemed to be negatively impacted. So like one of the things that they rallied around was COVID. So COVID had hit, everybody was rallying around COVID and trying to figure things out. Like they had a common enemy and they were all fighting together. And then COVID kind of went away and the team didn't seem like they were as close anymore. Like they had lost their alignment. They had lost their common purpose. Or they had another one where they had, and this kind of, I think a lot of us can relate to this. They had a person on their team that nobody liked, that everybody was really against, that was creating a lot of problems. And the team kind of rallied against that person in kind of a bad way. But, you know, we're going to work around that person. Like the person was there maybe longer than they should have been. And they kind of worked around that person. And that kind of brought the team together in a weird way. She described it. And then when that person finally left, the team dynamics dropped off again. Like the team got worse. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that because we always talk about being people centric as being empowered and aligned. The aligned piece, like what are you aligning around? Is that important? And guess what? Hint, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. So we've got myself, we've got Diana, and we've got Stephanie on this episode of our People Centric podcast. And we're going to talk about common enemies. So Diana, I'm going to go to you first, and I'm going to ask you the first question. Diana, who is your common enemy, and why do you hate me so much?
Oh man, that was good. Because I was gonna be like, Stephanie, our common enemy is calling us out.
Our common enemy is
like
leading this podcast today.
Blink a couple times if he's on the line. No, I'm just kidding.
He's here in front of you all.
Yeah. We love you, Don.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
do. We do.
Thank you.
I was trying to think of People Centric's common enemy. I think it's disengagement.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
We're all rallied around fighting disengagement at work. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
That's kind of a cool exercise to do as a team. You know, we talk a lot about like building your identity and what does that look like. And I mean, we did exercise recently. We talked about like your cultural ecosystem and things like that. It's just different thought exercises to approach it. It is kind of interesting. A few years ago, I was at a publishing conference and Johnny Levy walked us through a process like that where they said, if your company is a superhero, who's your enemy? Who are you fighting, right? Who are you lining around? I think I came up with the lost potential. I think was what I came up with at the end of the day.
We do hate lost potential.
We're fighting lost potential, which is disengagement, right? It's like people who are like, I could fix that, but I'm not going to because I'm at work, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't have that talent, but yeah. So there's things you rally around as a team like that would be helpful for our team, right? If we rallied around the idea of lost potential on our mission, which is to empower and align teams, to build healthy organizations that empower and align their people. When we rally around that, that's a healthy thing. What's an unhealthy thing for a team to rally around? And does the team get healthy while they're rallying around it? And then what's the bad part about it? If they rally around, lunch every day, and I've been on teams that rally around lunch every day, like it's the main theme of what they're talking about, what we do. Like I've been on that team for a while. And
listen, quit calling us out. We just really love tacos, okay?
Yeah.
Food is our love language. Stop it.
I've not heard anything wrong yet. Was that the good example?
or couscous, or I don't know. I was trying to think of something like it was not as exciting, or
Yeah, rallying
broccoli.
around lunch sounds good.
Yeah, rallying around lunch does sound good. And we're doing this right
Yeah.
before lunch, so it's probably bad. I'm a little hungry. A little hungry. So
Oh.
what are some unhealthy things that we see teams rally around? Let's just start with that.
I mean, I think you mentioned one common one we'll see is that the team will rally around a common enemy. And it's often someone else on the team. So that department or that person or that leader, right? And this is where we'll see like toxicity happen because they start telling these stories to themselves about like, well, that person or that team doesn't care, or they don't pay attention to the details and they don't think about this as much as they should, or they make mistakes and we don't, because we take the time to think through this and we would never let that happen and they just let that happen. So I think we see like those type of stories happening often where there's like tribes that emerge inside an organization, and you'd have that us versus them, and people align behind those things. And I can think of, one organization that we've worked with that definitely had that. Like, and to the point where one team was able to actually drive out the other team. Like they essentially staged anarchy in a coup inside the organization and got about like 3 or 4 people out of the organization. Now, when we look at that situation, there's a part of that was right. Right? I don't know if right is the right word, but like when we look at like why was this other team aligned against this other one, there's some good reasons for it,
Yeah,
right? Like
there was a problem. There
there
was a
was
legitimate
there
problem.
was a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a real problem in the organization. And they were very upset about that problem and felt like it was not being addressed appropriately. And they were right in that, right? But where it turned things was then, okay, well, now you quote unquote won, right? You got all those people out of the organization, and that team did a little bit of a victory dance because they got justice. Right now the problem's going to be fixed, and the people who were perpetuating that problem are now gone. And so all of us heroes just get to be here and run the organization now. High fives, unicorns, pizzas. We did it. But I think what we've seen happen often is like that little like rainbow moment is short-lived, because then the team's not looking at what systems and structures at our organization allowed all of that to happen. You were just hyper focused on one problem instead of what systems allowed that problem to happen, to run for as long as it did, and honestly to allow your team to like anarchy, a whole other team in the organization. And so then we'll usually see that tribe that was really strong against, and they were celebrating the victory, start fracturing and falling apart because they weren't actually focused on maybe solving what was the real issue. They weren't well placed or maybe had authority or the right influence to fix that other issue. They got focused on this. And ultimately, they had all aligned behind something that was like maybe not supportive of the mission completely. You missed the moment to align with the mission and find the real system problem.
Yeah, I will admit I've been on a team that did this, like aligned around a negative person or aligned around someone they wanted to get ousted. They got that person ousted, and then I'm not kidding. The next day, everyone kind of looked at each other and was like, "Well, now what? What do we talk to each other about?" Like we had spent so much time and so much energy and so much effort and so much just like gossip around this like one character. And once that character was gone, we literally all looked at each other and were like, well, what now? Like we don't have anything to talk to each other about. We don't know each other. We don't have anything to do. This was our main goal and mission. And what ended up happening is down the road, the group that was really tight ended up splitting into two different factions and fought each other. Like So it was a huge mess, right? Because we just didn't have real relationships or understanding behind it. We were just rallied around doing this one kind of hateful thing.
Yeah, and as Stephanie pointed back to, right, systems habits, right? You have systems. And some of them are habits and some of them are not deliberate habits. Many companies have non-deliberate habits. And if you have a team that's been fighting against an individual for a long time, your team is developing systems to fight. And so it doesn't surprise me then when they lost their enemy that they were like, okay, well, our systems are designed to fight something. So now we're going to fight each other. I saw it when I've used this example before, and this was 20 years ago, so I don't mind to share it. But like when I started at 3M as an engineer, I was literally in the training. They taught us that property accounting is your mortal enemy. We are the dogs and those are the cats. Like we are supposed to fight that. And property accounting were the people that like bought and maintained the tax records for the things that we purchased. So when we bought a pump or something, I had to put the right code on it so it got the right tax on it. And so there was a whole process that property accounting put in our way before we could just buy something. So they made it harder for buying things so that we could track tax codes and things like that, which engineers just don't think about and don't think it's very important. Now it's incredibly important to the company. Years like 3 or 4 years into my career there was a group from property accounting and a group from engineering came together and they started working together and solving problems and made both of our lives better, saved a bunch of money to the company. And I will say it had a negative impact on the culture in the engineering department because we lost our common enemy. We lost the people that we were working towards. The analogy I think I was just thinking of is when I used to play tennis in high school. I discovered like when I'd go to practice after school, if I was kind of tired and just a little sluggish and didn't feel good, there was a spot where I could go buy a candy bar and I'd go buy a Snickers bar and eat a Snickers bar. And then, man, I could go back. Then the energy would hit you and you could go play for a little while and then like an hour into it, then you would crash and you would be worse off than you were before, right? We see that for these teams, or if you go around a united enemy, while you're united around the enemy, you're like, our team is actually great. And we'll hear people describe that like, our team is great. We love each other. We only have one problem, and it's this problem over here. And the problem is the problem isn't really the goal of the team. Like you're aligning around something, but you're aligning around the wrong thing. It's a candy bar. They give you a shot in the arm. It makes you feel healthy, but you're not actually healthy. You feel healthy for a while. It's funny as we were talking before we jumped on here to record because we do plan these things. We plan these calls. I know sometimes it sounds like we're a little bit off the cuff, but we plan. We spend minutes planning each of these episodes, several minutes planning it. And so as we talked about this issue, sometimes this happens to us as individuals, not just as teams. Sometimes we have the common enemy comes from us as people that we get so focused on a thing. Like if you have a job that you really don't like, it's really easy in your life to say, now my common enemy is my job or my boss. And so then you start to design everything in your life around, I'm going to fight that boss or that common enemy or that job or thing. And you lose the bigger picture of what you're trying to accomplish in your life. Or another example that I can speak to is like, as parents, when you're raising kids, you're raising your kids, the kids become all consuming. If you don't have kids, it takes a lot of work. It's actually really, really hard. It consumes a lot of your time and effort, obviously. And then you'll see like couples a lot of times they will shift their attention all to the kids and the kids become the mission. And then at the end of that, when the kids start to graduate from school and they're starting to go out and do their own things, that mission goes away. And then the couple's like, well, shoot, now what? Now what aligns us? What leads us into things? So I'm curious if you guys, like, as we talk about personal situations, if you've ever been misaligned yourself or you've seen that for other folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think what struck me when you were talking is that a lot of times people align themselves around things they think need attention, right? Like, let's just say I'm going to align myself around injustices that are being done to people, right? And then I think you are constantly looking for those injustices instead of saying, I'm going to look for when people do good things and I'm going to promote those good things and I'm going to try to further the goodness. You kind of like unintentionally further the negativity when you're like, I'm looking for this injustice and I'm going to call it out and I'm going to point it out. I think some of that's healthy and some of that needs to be done. But if you're constantly looking for that and not the other side of it, right? And I think that happens when you align yourself against this like perceived enemy, right? When the person that I tried to get ousted from this other company was not a bad human. There was nothing, if I'm looking objectively, they weren't a bad person. Even when they did good things, I was still like, yeah, but, right? Because I was so negative against it. And I think if you are constantly looking for the bad, you forget that there's probably good too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's literally like how our brains are wired and like what we talk about in neuroscience is like, yeah, what you perceive as reality becomes your reality. And without getting us like too deep into the psychology and neuroscience of this, it's essentially the concept of like let's say you decide I want a new car and I want this specific make and model of car. And then inevitably what happens is you start seeing that car everywhere. And so your brain, you could say, oh my gosh, well, now since I wanted that car, like I created this reality in which this car is everywhere. Now everyone has this car. I need that car. Well, again, like without getting too deep into the neuroscience, the cars were always there. You just told your brain to start focusing on those things. And I think we accidentally do the same things inside organizations and we get hyper fixated on things and lose sight of the bigger reality. And I think sometimes lose sight of the mission and the real solutions that would move things forward because we get fixated on that person is the problem or that thing is the problem in our organization. And so then, yeah, if you decide in your brain that that is the sole thing, that's the that one person is the problem, that one thing is the problem, that one process, or even on the flip side, that one thing is the only solution, then yeah, you will start seeing that everywhere, right? Because that's just how our brains work. And so you do have to like confront those things for yourself. And if you find yourself fixated on one thing as the solution or one thing as a problem, it's to take that moment and say, like literally, brain, show me another way. Show me how this could be easier. Show me another solution. And like they literally talk about like saying that out loud to yourself, like brain, show me an easier way. Like
Yeah.
show me an easier way to accomplish this. Or brain, show me what I should be focused on. Brain, show me what I'm not seeing.
Mm.
And just like sometimes that cognitive action can help get you unstuck from maybe being focused on the wrong thing. If you can feel that you're getting pulled to the wrong thing, or you can feel you're getting sucked into something that ultimately might not be helping you, your team, the mission, in the way that you actually want.
Yeah, that's why manifesting works. Right. I've
Yeah,
heard people talk
exactly.
about that recently. I'm
Yeah.
going to manifest this by just thinking about it differently, and then it suddenly appears. It's not magic. It's just how your brain perceives the world. What fires wires is what they say. So
Yeah.
what fires in your brain creates a hardwire, and you're creating habits. So like Diana said, if you are at work and you have a coworker who really messes you over and becomes a big problem for you, your brain starts to wire and say, well, then I can't trust people and I have to look for people. So then when somebody else does something little, then you're thinking, I've seen this pattern before. I know where this is going. And then we oversimplify the world around us. And then we get into what we call narrative paradigm. And then now that person's bad and they're evil and you go down the wrong road. You're aligned, like you're doing a good job from an individual standpoint. You feel like you're healthy because you're aligned and you know what you need to do. I know what I need to do. I'm passionate about the thing I'm going to do. So now I'm going to do it, but it's not a very good thing. It's not a healthy thing to align around, you know? So the last example that we wanted to just highlight here, and then we're going to talk about like, how do you get out of this? Like, when you have the wrong common enemy is the theme here, right? Is companies, organizations, right? Sometimes we will get fixated on something that we always thought was a good idea or something that we should do. And then you get hyper fixated on it and you forget that that's not the mission of what we're trying to accomplish, right? You'll see it. You'll see it a lot of times. You see it short term. I see it like, this is a bad example, but the mall at Christmas time. I used to walk in the mall at Christmas time when the mall used to be really, really packed and crowded. And I realized like the mission of everybody at the mall is to get you out of that store. Like I want you to come in and get your stuff and get out because I got more people to take care of. That's not, people will align around that. That's not really good mission to try to get people out. You want them to actually hang out longer and buy more stuff. It's better for the store. Or we've talked about examples where you get fixated on a product or a moment or something like that, and you get really excited about it. We used to run a live event in Springfield for a long time. We did it for 10 years. Called Leadership Mastermind. If you're from the Springfield area, we've heard a lot of people going, but I loved those. Those were a lot of fun. They were a lot of fun. They were great. It was also a pretty heavy lift for our team. And we took a step back and looked at it and just said, like, what's it really doing for us and our vision, our mission, and everything? And we realized there's more efficient things that we can do that help our mission. And we just simply put it down. But we were stuck on that thing for a long time and put a lot of effort into it because we had always done that. What are some other ways that we see teams align around the wrong things or organizations strategically align around the wrong things?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share an example from my past work life. Like I spent the first decade of my career in nonprofit, and one time was working for a nonprofit, and this like pretty incredible grant opportunity came up that would like fund some of our programs like significantly. And so our leadership, I mean, literally decided to turn the ship toward that. And not only did everyone's time and efforts, but like we were changing like program models, curriculums, our website, everything to be geared toward this specific funding source, to be able to like receive that and do it. And now that was a good thing. Like, right, there was money to be had, and why not us? And it would help support something really important we were trying to do. But the problem is like, we couldn't really control that. And, without making this a super long story, when COVID hit, that money went away. And so overnight, our organization lost a huge, huge amount of funding. We had to do layoffs, which was horrible, because we had inadvertently put all of our eggs in that basket. Now, I was on that team. A lot of other smart people were on that team. A lot of other really strategic people were on that team. And if you'd ever come to me and said, you'll be a part of an organizational leadership team that will put all of their eggs in one basket, I'd be like, never. Never would I do that. I'm very futuristic. I'm very strategic. I would never do something like that. I would never be a part of something like that. I would be the whistleblower in that situation. And I wasn't, to be honest. So it was like, I think, if I'm going to give myself some credit, I think I had some concerns, I had some questions, but I was not standing up in the meeting and saying like, we're putting all of our eggs in one basket. We need to be really careful here. What if it all blows up? It was like, okay, no, we got to shift, because if we can get that money, wow, that's game changing for us right now. And I think it ended up being a little bit of a short-sighted strategy, and we aligned ourselves behind the grant funding instead of our mission. Because had we looked at our mission, part of our mission and the commitment to the people we were serving was sustainability. And that, we had the whole mantra of like, don't give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. And then we accidentally did it to ourselves, right? And so even though it was good funding and it was a good thing, we accidentally realigned our organization to be about getting that money instead of doing our mission. And I think in that moment, had we been able to like cognitively pause and say, let's look at our mission and does this align? I think we still would have applied for that funding. And I think we still would have done some of the things that we did, but I think we would have done it differently. And I think we would have then intentionally, because had we looked at our mission and seen that sustainability, I think at least one of us would have been like, well, how much are we changing to be a good recipient of that versus staying true to who we are? And then if they want to give us that money, great, but we're going to also be who we are and go after other things too. So I think it's we've been talking about common enemy, and it's there a lot, but sometimes it looks like common opportunity, but we accidentally like shift too much and align everything behind that. We end up putting all of our eggs in one basket, or like, talking about people centric leadership mastermind. It's like nobody ever wants to admit we're doing things because that's the way we've always done them. But sometimes we align ourselves so heavily behind a process, a product, or something that we don't take the step back to say, like, is this actually doing what we want it to do anymore? Is this supporting the mission in the way that we want it to? Are we living within our values if we keep doing this thing? Are we really in the right car? Is it really taking us where we want to go?
So just to put this together, and let's talk about how to fix this, right? So you have a common enemy or a common challenge or opportunity. Like, let's broaden that, right? There's something that's big. It takes your focus away from something bigger, and it feels really good when you're doing it. The team, while they're focused on that common enemy or the common challenge or anything, it looks like a healthy team. It looks like a healthy culture. It looks like a healthy company, right? It looks like a healthy individual when they're focused on the thing, but they're focused on the wrong thing, right? It's kind of it's the false god thing almost thing, right? Like you're focused on the idol, the thing that's really exciting right now that we have to work on. And then that thing goes away, and then there's a problem. There's a rebound effect, right? The team suddenly, oh, well, we weren't as good a team as we thought we were. I've lost purpose in my life. What do I do? Or we don't work together as well. Or the company suddenly strategically finds himself in a bad spot. So how do you combat that? Like, what's a deeper, richer opportunity or common enemy to fight? How do you work against that?
Well, I think it's interesting that when I thought about like what's people centric enemy, I didn't think about a person or a thing, right? I thought about like our bigger picture. And I said disengagement, right? Like that's the thing. And I think you have to continue to go back to that bigger picture, that bigger why, that bigger reasoning, and be careful not to justify what you're doing with that bigger picture. Because I could have back in the day been like, I am justifying ousting this person because they don't align with this bigger picture, right? But then that's putting intent on them. That's a lot of things you shouldn't do. And I think if you keep realigning yourself to that bigger picture and really focus on it and say, what am I doing that is actually forwarding this mission, vision, or values? Then you're going to get it right eventually. And I don't think it's just one of those. I think you have to have the mission, the vision, and the values because all of those work together. And so if I had looked at it and said, like, me wanting to oust a human does not align with the team value. I'm not communicating well. It's not making an impact. This wasn't a people centered, but still, I'm using people centered values to like figure that out. I think if you look at all of that in the bigger picture, then it fits together better. And you can say, I'm actually not living my values. It actually doesn't align with the mission and it's actually hindering the vision. So I think if you use that, and I would encourage you to have a personal mission, vision, and values so that you can do that in your personal life as well. So I think it's just tying it back to all of that stuff.
Well, the way you said it, Diana, was really good that you could hear I hope you could hear the problem is like, I want to oust that person. And so I'm looking for the justification to oust that person. But when you say it, your mission is to oust that person. That's what you're saying. Like my personal mission is to oust that person. That's what I'm trying to do. Then everything else is subservient to it. That's wrong, right? You know, if you got a bad manager on your team and we're trying to fool that person or work around that person, or I'm running a practice and I'm trying to work around that doctor, or you're running a company and you're saying I'm gonna make sure that we keep that prop up that product that's not doing as well as it used to be doing. You're not on your mission, and you could even refer to a mission, but you're saying this, I'm gonna do this thing with this is the justification that's behind it. When you flip that around and you put your mission and your vision and your values in front of it. And I love how you said I'm using our current values to solve the problem. That's the right answer, right? If you go back and you say, well, what was our mission, vision, values say? I'll be pretty transparent. Like fourth quarter of last year for People Centric was really rough. And you could see it with the economy and some things that had happened. And just a lot of people kind of stopped or slowed down because they said, I don't know what's going to happen next. There was a lot of uncertainty in the market. And so it really slowed down business for us. And as we talked about, what do we want to do with it? What we didn't do, which I'm really proud of us for doing, is we didn't go and say, well, how do we protect this? Or how do we protect this? Or how do we protect this? What we did is we went all the way back to the mission. And our team just said, at the end of the day, what does our mission say we should do during this time? And it says we should help people. And let's focus on that. Let's do that. Everything we do should help people. If we're going to we'll do some product development and that'll help people. Let's work on some pro bono work. That'll help people. Let's do this other stuff that'll help people. And that has really helped us to perform better this year than we thought we were going to, and accelerate now as things are maybe getting better to be able to accelerate out of that in a better spot. So that's what your vision, mission, and your values can do for you. I think we probably should do like a really quick we say those three things. If you haven't listened to those episodes, what's the difference between a vision, mission, and values? What are those three things?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing because I feel like I'll just say this from maybe my perspective, and this is maybe some of my mental trash coming out, but like we're consultants on here talking about your mission, vision, values, right? And you're like, okay, but like those are things that go into the incorporation documents. That's just things that my leadership team likes. And of course, you guys are all gaga for it as consultants, right? And I think though that's probably true. And there probably are a lot of organizations where the mission, vision, values were something that was just written to found the company. It's, on the articles of incorporation, whatever, and it doesn't mean anything. And I think that would be our challenge to you, that like the mission really should mean something to the team. The vision should mean something to the team. The value should mean something to the team. And that's why we talk about it from a people centric standpoint, because they should be more than just words on the page. Like how Don was saying, like we talk about those all the time. Or like I was even in a client meeting yesterday where I talked about one of our company values because I was like, hey, I want feedback from you all on the work we're doing and how things are going, because one of our values is impact, which means we are actually going to make an impact with what we're doing and the work that we're doing. And so if there's something we could do differently, or there's where you need us more, where you need us less, that would help you. That's what we want to do. Yes, we have ideas. We have ideas, we have strategies, we see a multitude of things you could work on. But what would make the biggest impact for you today? And so sometimes that means that we have to hold or wait on even really good strategies or really good ideas sometimes, because we're like, no, we're committed to making an impact. So what's going to help you? And like Don was saying, like sometimes that means we go back to our mission and we're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna take on this thing, or we're gonna do X, Y, and Z because that supports our mission and our vision of putting people at the center of every organization, even if that means that we don't get to do, our most strategic, innovative, whatever XYZ thing, because we're committed to making an impact. Like that's what I mean. Like when the values and the mission should mean something. And so if they don't, would encourage you to like revisit those, or like call us. We'd be happy to help you walk through that and talk about like how do you rewrite those in a way that it actually does guide the team and would help you know if you're aligned or not.
And Don, can you real quick talk about the difference between mission, vision, and values? Because I think we as consultants get it, but I think a lot of times people are like, well, what's the difference between a mission and a vision?
Yeah, it's not
And
marketing
I don't know.
material. It's truly is your identity, right? So your mission is what you do. It's what you do. And it's a simple statement of what you do. It's not a list of your products or services. That's what the products and services do for people. But what does it do to help? In the analogy sometimes we use as a game, and it's the definition of the game, right? It is the game. So for us, we're building healthy organizations where people are aligned and empowered. That's what our mission is, right? That's what we're trying to do. When you talk about your values, you can think about the values help guide you on how you play that game. It's the rules of the game, right? So like Stephanie just hit one from us is impact. So like we want to make sure that whatever we're doing has an impact. So we're trying to help you build a healthy organization where people are aligned and empowered. If we're not successful with that, our value tells us that we need to pivot and we need to do something different. And we got to figure it out as a team. And it's not just like, oh, that's something that strategically is important for us to do. We want to do that as part of our values. It's who we are. And then your vision is what winning the game would look like if you won the game, which our vision is to put people at the center of every organization, which means fighting that enemy. Like we've vanquished the enemy of disengagement. If people are the center of every organization, nobody's disengaged. You get the hearts and minds of everybody that's there. You get all of that potential, and people go to work and they love their job. The companies make more money. That's what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. You go back to those things. People oftentimes they'll create them, and I like Stephanie said, like the articles of incorporation or whatever. You put them in a document someplace, you file it, whatever, and then those things don't become real. These are the moments where things become real. If you're leading a team, or if you're, and when I say if you're leading a team, by the way, if you're listening to this, you're leading a team. I don't care if you're a manager on the team. You are leading the team. You're influencing the rest of the team. You are, by every definition of the word leader that we would put out there, you're influencing the rest of the team. You're leading the team. You can decide to go back to that vision, mission, and values, and you can say, we've got a problem with our manager. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that? Not as a problem with the manager, but how do we advance our mission while we have a problem with the managers? It's different. How do I raise my kids in a way that still aligns with who I want to be as a human and the impact I want to make in this life? How do I strategically drive the company forward in a big picture without getting stuck on individual sacred cows or things that exist for things? If you do that, you get into longer term health. Your team can build health because you can always go back to that vision mission. When COVID hit us, what did we do? We went back to our values and our vision mission, right? When we had a hiccup on our in this last year in terms of the economy, we went back and said, what's our vision, mission, values tell us to do? And we talked about it. What are those things? When we're successful, we're wildly making money and we're doing fantastic. We go back to the vision, mission, values to make sure we're still checking and we're doing what we're doing and not just doing it because we do it. That's the thing that gives you the fuel. When I hear a person or a team or a company and they feel like they're losing they feel like they don't have the motivation that they had, or they feel like they're down, instantly in my brain, I start thinking you need to focus on your strategy sets of systems and go back to your identity, go back to who you are, go back to that core, that foundational element, and build from that. That's the key for that, for what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
And I would add, to maybe the enemy perspective of this is like, yeah, if you feel like you have an enemy, like go back to your mission and like, are we even fighting the right fight right now, like as a team? Like, and again, it's not because you're wrong. You could be right that there is a problem somewhere. But like when you look at your mission, are we fighting the right problem? Are we trying to solve the right thing? And are we doing it in a way that is aligned with our actual values? Because I doubt there's any organization out there that your values would tell you, yes, you should absolutely stage anarchy inside the organization. You should fight with one another. That is the correct way to treat one another and solve a problem. I haven't seen those values listed. Maybe there's somewhere if you have like some evil company, but I think most of them would say, no, our values would tell us like things like respect and communication, some form of unity, right? Because we're working to solve this thing in the world. That's why our company exists. And so, yeah, just to add on to what you were saying, Don, of like, yeah, if you find yourself stuck on a common enemy, go back to the mission, vision, values. Because yeah, you might have found a problem, but yeah, how we talked about earlier, did you accidentally make it your mission to solve that problem? And have you gotten misaligned from your actual mission? And maybe that would tell you what to do with that problem instead of saying we're just going to direct all of our time, effort, energy, resources to ending that.
Yeah.
What would your mission actually tell you should be you're spending your time on? And you might even find maybe you just let that one go, right? Or if you were right about something and there is something really wrong happening, there's true errors being made that are hurting your mission, hurting the team, then just go and fix it. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. We don't have to wage war. You can just fix it.
Just fix it. Focus on the bigger picture and fix the other stuff, right?
Yeah. That's the
So
thing that's right now. I will say to myself, like, brain, just show me the easy way. Like, I've probably overcomplicated it. Show me the
yeah.
easy way. How could I just fix that and then move toward where I really want to be?
I've got an employee that's a constant problem. Am I talking to the employee? Am I going to talk to them? And then maybe I may have to promote them to the next opportunity inside of another organization, or maybe I have to get them realigned quickly because it's threatening our mission, bigger picture things. Yeah. So if your team feels really good, this is the warning for everybody. And this is a great episode. I like this. We got a little neuroscience in it, which I love. We got a little bit of practical vision mission stuff. We got some inspirational stuff in there. But if you feel like if you're sitting back and you're looking at your team and your team feels great, and you think, I don't want to change anything right now, I'm going to ask you, like, why does your team feel great? What are they really aligned around? And we'll check that for yourself. If it feels great for you in your life where you're at right now, like just double check, make sure, what are you aligned around? Are you aligned around a greater purpose? If your company's thinking about what they want to do, or you're thinking your strategy, or maybe you don't have a strategy, maybe you're like, oh, we already know what we need to do. By the way, that's a red flag. If you're like, oh, we already know what we need to do, we don't need to sit back and think about it. This could be you're following the wrong thing. You might need to go back and really think about it. So that's just kind of a warning for everybody. So thanks a lot for joining us on this episode. Thanks for the suggestion out there. I didn't name the person because we didn't want to throw them under the bus on anything that they shared. But it's just a person I just met for the first time a few weeks ago. So giving you a shout out. I hope you know who you are. But if you got ideas, make sure you throw them at us. Also, by the way, we do have our book out there. Go check it out. We have a book called Becoming People Centric. It's available on Amazon. You can go buy it on Amazon. Ever heard of Amazon? It's a big thing. It's a whole thing.
Here's the whole thing. We also have a webinar, a free webinar. If you guys are thinking about strategic planning, if you're thinking about mission, vision, values, and what that looks like in an organization, we do have a free webinar coming up. And all of the information about the webinar and the book are both in the show notes. So you can check it out there.
Yeah, that's cool. So check it out. Come join us in other spots. But until then, we'll see you at our next episode of the People Centric Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.